Fox Sports 1 NBA insider extraordinary. You can follow him on Twitter at Ric Bucher. That is at Ric Bucher. Rick, I got to say, I got to start with you where I started this hour. How many times have I seen that, well, there's 1 second left on the clock, we're going to throw the alley-oop play in? I've never seen it work, ever. I've never seen it work. And, of course, it works against the Clippers, and the Suns win the game.
Yeah, it certainly helped the angle. You don't normally, very rarely are you throwing it in where you can throw it, where you're almost throwing it to the front of the rim, and all the guy has to do is go up and flush it. A lot of times it's coming from a high angle, right? You call the timeout, and now you're inbounding it from up above by the hash mark. And so, but look, Clippers had a half dozen different ways to win this game or to put it out of reach, and ultimately didn't. And I think these kind of losses not only stick with you, but they loom larger in series than the ones where you get blown out, because you did everything necessary and then somehow found a way to end up with an L. And they're going to remember this one. However this series goes, if they lose this series, this is the one that they're going to remember the most.
Well, I mean, they literally bloodied Devin Booker and kept him in check. Chris Paul's not there. Everything's laid up for you. And well, to lose this way. But the thing that I think I'm going to remember most, though, Rick, is the fact that the final 2 minutes took over a half hour to play.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, but you know what? Ultimately, they did get the replays right. I don't think there was a replay there where I take issue with what the final result was. I wish there was a way to speed it up, because I do think that it impacts the general flow of the game. But they got it right, and ultimately that's what you want instant replay to do. The greatest issue I have with instant replay, other than we use it far too much and it does change the tempo of the game, is when they use it and you're still looking at it and going, I don't think they got that right. That has got to be the most frustrating part of when we all spend 5 minutes looking at it slow motion and they come up with a result that us at home or in the building, anybody watching the instant replay doesn't agree with.
When it comes down to it, we watch the Suns execute, and again, a play that we never see happen. But it was made possible because Paul George misses 2 free throws. And I get that it's free throws, and we see guys miss free throws all the time. But, Rick, missing 2 free throws in that situation, the last one was off the back of the iron. I mean, he's got to make at least one of those. I mean, I know it's elementary to say, but missing those 2 free throws, Rick.
Well, there's no question. I mean, you are the go-to guy, and he's a good free throw shooter. I don't have any excuse or explanation, especially the way he missed them. Look, sometimes you're going to have them rim out. Sometimes you're going to, but he did not, and normally he shoots them and it's all net. I mean, he's pretty clean with his free throws. The moment, the pressure, it's hard to say that it did not get to him and affected those shots because of the kind of free throw shooter he is and the way that he ultimately missed them. But, there are a lot of, and I'm sure the coaches, I wouldn't be surprised if Ty Lue says, the game wasn't won or lost there. There were a lot of other things they could have done different. And I agree to a certain extent. Reggie Jackson, inconsistent he was hesitant in situations that created problems and turnovers. Again, same as game 1. Paul George, same thing. Like just not being decisive in what he wanted to do and resulted in turnovers. And then, Devin Booker comes back bloody. He's got his nose stuffed with gauze. And you put him on the free throw line to get a rhythm and to score. Make the dude, having, been knocked upside the nose, looking like he has a broken nose, having it stuffed with gauze, like make him make a shot. Make him show you that he can make a shot after all of that trauma, and don't send him to the free throw line. And that's not what they did. They gave him, I think, 5 straight free throws just to feel good about where he was in the game. And so those are the little decisions. Those are the little mistakes. Those are the little errors make the difference once you get to this level of the playoffs in the NBA.
Be remiss if we didn't at least acknowledge Paul George throwing the ball off of Zubac's back for a turnover as well.
Yeah. Again, I mean, it is the thing that scares me about the Clippers, in that you are now asking Paul George and Reggie Jackson to make a lot more decisions than they normally would without Kawhi Leonard there. The ball would be in his hands, and in this game, the ball would have been in Kawhi's hands a lot, obviously, in the last minute or two. And you're secure with him. Even when Paul doesn't turn it over, there are times when he's on the dribble and he dribbles himself into bad spaces. He's kind of loose with the ball. If you're a Clippers fan, there have to be times where he scares the hell out of you in the final minute or two. And for where they are without Kawhi Leonard, that's who they're going to be. They're going to rely on Reggie and Paul, and unless they're more decisive and more secure with the ball than they were in the first two games, then I don't see a way in which they're going to win this series.
Well, I look at it this way, Rick, is that if you can't – I think it's more simple than that. You just had these first two games. You were missing Kawhi Leonard. Okay, you knew that was happening. The Suns are missing Chris Paul. We know Chris Paul is going to be coming back. Kawhi Leonard probably not. I know you're playing on the road, but if you can't win a game where the Suns are missing their floor leader, even though you had guys step up and Payne stepping up, and we'll get to Ayton in a couple of minutes as well, but if you can't win these games, what game are you going to win? I mean, Scott Foster even officiated the game, and you still when the Suns finally wound up winning a game that he officiated.
I get that, but because the Clippers have been so good at finding matchups and mismatches within their matchups, and Cam Payne has been so dominating as a scorer, I think in a game like this, you certainly miss Chris Paul. But if it becomes more of an offensive game, if the Clippers going home can make the game a little more up-tempo, and because for every minute that Chris Paul plays, Cam Payne is not. And so I like the security of Chris Paul when you have a lead. Do I think Chris Paul is going to score as well as Cam Payne has, particularly where he scores from on the floor? And what's that battle going to be between Pat Bev and Rajon Rondo? Like, Rajon Rondo's having a hard time guarding anybody right now. Because of the way Chris Paul plays, doesn't play as fast, Rajon Rondo has the opportunity now to stay on the floor and defend Chris Paul. So I hear what you're saying, and in most cases, and you may be right, but I need to see how the matchups are affected when Chris Paul gets back, largely because Cam Payne has been just so good, and he's going to play less if Chris Paul's back and playing more.
Yeah, but the slogans are all written. Campaign with a huge night tonight. Fox Sports Radio, Jason Smith Show with Mike Harmon here. Ric Bucher joins us. Fox Sports.
Can I apologize? Hold on a sec.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I need to apologize to the listeners for laughing at that. That was so bad. You caught me off guard. I laughed. That was horrendous.
But you laughed.
I'm embarrassed that I laughed. I really am. God, that's not
You're
a
better than that, Rick.
On me. Yeah.
At Ric Bucher on Twitter, where you find him. I'm not plugging anything else now. On the Ball Podcast, Rebound the Book with Brian Grant. Pick that up. Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. Prime Day. You got it. You got deals out there. Make Rebound one of them as you flow through. So let's get to Deandre Ayton. I like when dinosaurs roamed the earth and we had true centers, and I like watching Deandre Ayton play because he's a kid. He's still growing, but boy, he's really grown the last couple of weeks.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, to me, he's probably the most difficult matchup that they have. He to me is really has been the difference, because not only does he finish with such efficiency around the rim, but he's got that little mid-range. And time and again, we saw tonight where they didn't have anything going late in the clock. He's got it at 15 feet. He knows he can't drive on Zubac. Zubac is laying off him, and he's knocking down that mid-range jumper. And that's something that the Clippers simply don't have. I think Zubac is good. I think he's contributed, but DeAndre Ayton has the edge on him in the same way that he had in the previous series, and without question. And I don't know that we necessarily expected that. So, to me, DeAndre Ayton is the real puzzle that they have to figure out, or they're going to have to dominate some other matchup. Now, the one way they can do it, and I saw it at one point because I'd almost forgot. I was like, "Oh, Nick Batum can shoot threes." Like, if they can flip that, where Batum is in or Paul George is guarding DeAndre Ayton, and they can win the 3-point versus 2-point battle, because DeAndre is not going to step out that far, and he's not going to defend that far, and he's not going to shoot that shot. That's where you may be able to exploit him a little bit. But, man, when the dude's shooting 70, 80% on twos, you're going to have to knock down some threes in order to flip that.
Ric Bucher with us, Fox Sports 1 NBA Insider. You can follow him on Twitter at Ric Bucher. All right, Rick, when it comes, I mentioned Chris Paul. We've gotten no information after he's been out, COVID protocols. First it was he tested positive for COVID, but he got his vaccine. All of that stuff has gone out the window now. What are you hearing is the likely situation right now, and when he could wind up coming back?
Yeah, I mean, I have not heard anything specific about when he's coming back. Obviously, the 10 to 14 days is the quarantine. So going by that, trying to think dates now, I believe he could potentially be back for the next game if we're on the short end of that. I don't know exactly when the clock started. But, honestly, we're getting the same thing from when it comes to Kawhi Leonard. And I'm surprised by all of this, to be honest with you, because the NBA used to have a more clear protocol about defining, what's going on with guys and giving everyone a better read, and considering, the level of gambling that's now involved. I'm really surprised that they're doing this kind of smoke and mirrors job on where these guys are physically and when they're going to be available. So I wish I could tell you. I mean, everything that I've heard about Kawhi's is you should probably not expect to see him again, but he hasn't been definitively ruled out, and that raises the other question. When I'm hearing that, it's like, okay, so if that's the case, is this just gamesmanship on the part of the Clippers? And if it's a league rule, you would think that it would be. This is not up to the Suns to announce when he could be back or when they expect him back. This would be league protocol that you're following, and I would expect from the league to be giving us a clearer view of where Chris Paul is. But we haven't getting it, and I will say I find this a little bit unusual for the way that the NBA normally operates, particularly in the postseason.
That's okay. We'll get another couple of coaches fired, and we'll pay attention to that.
Good
but
Lord.
Tomorrow, Atlanta at Milwaukee, Game 1. What are we expected here? A couple of superstars that are pushing forward, and Nate McMillan still trying to lose the interim tag.
Yes, I know. Yeah, right. If I'm Nate at this point, I'm not signing anything with Atlanta because there's a lot of jobs out there.
Yep.
I want to go to the highest bidder at this point if I can. Let's get into a bidding war. That said, look, I don't know. I'll be interested to see what the ratings do overall, but I am fascinated, as I am with this series. I'm going to be just as fascinated with the Hawks and the Bucks because I hate to say it, but it's going to come down to matchups. A lot of people are saying that the Bucks are going to win this. I've seen a lot of people predicting the Bucks are going to win in 4 or 5. I have the Bucks in the finals, or had them from the beginning of the year, but I don't see it as being a landslide by any means. Largely because I haven't been impressed with how Mike Budenholzer has utilized his team. They have a 6-man rotation. They did at the end of the last series. That's not going to be good enough. They're going to have to get something out of Bryn Forbes. They're going to have to get something out of Bobby Portis. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to have to play consistent basketball and get 2 feet in the paint, operate from the mid-post and the pinch post. And then I could see, potentially the Bucks winning the series and winning it in 5 or 6. But there are so many unanswered questions. The Bucks have played so up and down that I do think they decide which way it goes. But if they show us what was their worst against the Nets, then I think there's an opening for the Hawks to win. And this is the one last element, is the fact that the 3-point shooting, particularly for the Hawks, has really had a huge influence on every game that they've won or lost. When they come out and they're knocking down threes, they're a different team. And when they're not, they're a different team too. So that's going to be an element. And the Bucks has not shot the three as well, and have not defended the three particularly well. So that leaves the opening for the Hawks. Let's see how they shoot it from the arc.
So there it is, Ric Bucher. No, Rick, by the way, just wanted to remind, I don't know if you know this or not, but before the season started, I picked the Hawks to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know if you know that, but I picked the Hawks to go. They were my surprise Heat team of the year. So I just wanted to let you know that, because I just wanted to...
I did not know that. I would have thought that if you had made that pick, that we would have heard of some kind of campaign out there about your selection.
Well, he jumped off him really quickly, Rick.
It's not my fault. I say it all the time. I say it all the time. He's on Twitter at Ric Bucher. That is at Ric Bucher. Fox Sports 1 NBA Insider. The book Rebound with Brian Grant. Pick it up. It's an awesome read. Rick, as always, buddy, thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it. You didn't get my campaign joke?
No, that was good.
But I got it. But Harmon gave the campaign, the whole campaign thing too. I mean,
he brought it back. That's
right,
what we
got it.
Ric Bucher, you are my hero. Wait, you're my guy.
Thank you.
Thank you. I got it.
Thank you. Somebody appreciates me, damn it.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Oh,
bye,
awesome
Rick.
Stuff. Take it easy, Rick. Look,